Welcome to Steve's Random Thoughts, where I, Steve Williams, just say what's on my mind.
What the F, America? What the F? I'm beginning to believe that given all the political violence that we're seeing and that we have seen over the past 4+ years, could be leading us down a hole. And recently, I thought about a time in our history that was called Bleeding Kansas. Laying the groundwork to Bleeding Kansas was the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which, among other things, created the Kansas and Nebraska territories and allowed individuals living within those territories to vote whether or not they wanted to allow slavery. Two groups of people moved into the brand new Kansas territory to try to influence the outcome. First, you had the pro-slavery people from next door Missouri and the South coming in so that they could vote for slavery. You also had a group of anti-slavery abolitionists who had moved from Massachusetts and other parts of New England into the Kansas territory. One thing led to another, and at least 2 to 3 major battles occurred. Some historians even believe that Bloody Kansas was perhaps the beginning of the American Civil War as we knew it. So in other words, the Civil War may not have necessarily begun at Fort Sumter in South Carolina, but in Kansas between pro-slavery and anti-slavery shooting at each other. If you want to learn a little bit more, go into a little bit further depth about Bleeding Kansas, I highly recommend a video by history teacher Mr. Beat, who lives in Kansas. And I'll put a link to Mr. Beat's video in the description. So go out and take a look at it for yourself and show Mr. Beat a little bit of love. All right? And you can tell him that we sent you. So why do I bring up Bleeding Kansas? I'm beginning to wonder, given the political violence that we've been seeing over the past 4+ years, including but not limited to the January 6th Capitol riot, which horrified me beyond all belief. I could not believe that this was America when I saw that on TV. And recent political assassinations, which included Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband. And then just the other day, Charlie Kirk, who founded a conservative youth organization called Turning Point USA, was himself assassinated on the campus of Utah Valley University. Both of these individuals were polar opposites on the political spectrum. But now they have one thing in common. They were both killed for their political beliefs. I've seen a lot of reaction from both the left and the right, up to and including the President of the United States. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with the reaction that I'm seeing. And you know why? Because I'm finding a lack of compassion. I'm finding more of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth type of mentality. And I'm finding that people want to dance on their graves. Dance on these people's graves, for God's sake. How inhumane can you get? Now, I'm not saying don't have your own political beliefs. Hell yeah, have them. But don't take a gun or knife or any other instrument and go out and try to hurt or kill somebody because you don't agree with them. When you do that, even if you so much as try to harm them, you know what you're going to do? You're going to create martyrs. Yes, martyrs. It makes me sick to my stomach. It does. And going back to the Bleeding Kansas thing. Now, maybe you're going to say that I'm clutching my pearls a little bit. Well, so what? If you think I'm clutching my pearls, fine. Here, I'm clutching my pearls. All right? But I want you to think about this. The shooting and the killing that began in the Kansas Territory was a prelude to the American Civil War. In 1865, when most all of the shooting was done, over 600,000, let me say that again, 600,000 Americans, North and South, were dead. And I wonder sometimes, are we looking at another civil war? There are people out there who are actually talking of civil war. Civil war! Didn't you learn from the last time, people? 600,000 friggin' Americans died between 1861 and 1865. The Civil War you may be talking about right now may not be North versus South. It may not be about slavery. It's going to be about left versus right. I'm afraid for this country. When Abraham Lincoln got up there and he talked about government of, by, and for the people shall not perish from this earth, when he gave his famous Gettysburg Address, those people that fought to try to preserve a country, and yes, they won. The North won. But again, it cost 600,000 frickin' lives. And our country was not quite as big population-wise back in 1865. So 600,000 was a fairly significant percentage of the American population at that time. But are we going to get to the point where we're afraid to go out on the streets because somebody out there is going to shoot us because they think that we're the enemy because of our political beliefs? Because we're the Republican, or we're the Democrats, or we're left or right, conservative, liberal, whatever, black, white, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish. Hell, look at Northern Ireland. I mean, for at least 30 years, Protestants and Catholics killed each other needlessly. And even to this day, they still feel the scars in Northern Ireland. To this day here in America, there are many people who still feel the scars of the American Civil War. I believe that we as a nation have yet to fully heal from the scars of the Civil War that raged on between 1861 and 1865. Slavery was abolished, but it didn't wave a magic wand. It didn't eliminate racism. And later on, even with the Civil Rights Act, 100 years later, it wasn't a magic wand. What are we going to do, folks? Well, first of all, let me give you this thing to think about. What if? What if somebody came to your door and said that your loved one is no longer alive because of a heinous act, such as what happened to Charlie Kirk, or what happened to Melissa Hortman, or for that matter, what happened in all those school shootings, going all the way back to Columbine, to the recent school shootings in Minnesota and Colorado, Sandy Hook. How would you feel? I can tell you how I feel as a human being. Yes, I would want vengeance. I would be devastated if anything, anybody tried to even harm a hair on any of my loved one's head. Yeah, I'd want some type of vengeance. But then again, I also have to, at some point, step back, cool down, and remind myself that two wrongs don't make a right. So in the case of what's happened right now with people calling for vengeance over the death of Charlie Kirk and a civil war, for God's sake, everybody, back off. Everybody, back off. Take a deep breath. Let's appeal to our better angels. Let's let the justice system deal with those who had allegedly, the individual or even individuals, and I don't know the whole details of whoever killed Charlie Kirk or Melissa Hortman or any of those kids in Colorado. But now is not the time to start finger pointing. We're already seeing our elected officials finger pointing, blaming one side or another, saying that the radical leftist or the radical rightist or some other booger bear is responsible for these. If you're a politician, whether you're a city councilman, a mayor, a state legislator, a governor, congressman, senator, or the president of the United States, let me say this and make this perfectly clear. Quit acting like children. Act like the adults that we expect you to be. Quit getting up there in Congress, calling each other names and pointing finger and trying to lay the blame, and start working on bringing this country together. Yes, we've got problems. People across all races, creeds, colors, religions are having a hard time and are feeling left out. People are pissed off about grocery prices, gas prices, access to health care. We've got a whole hell of a lot of problems. But we are not going to solve our problems by shooting at each other. We're not going to solve our problems by getting up there and pointing the fingers, calling each other names, and acting like we're a bunch of damn kids on a frickin' playground. Okay? I don't care if you're a damn Republican or a damn Democrat. I don't care if you're a frickin' communist. I don't care if you're an atheist, an agnostic, a Christian, a Jew, whatever. I don't care. I care as an American about bringing this country together, talking to each other, not at each other. Folks, if you want another civil war, I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of it. I want to live in an America where there's still a constitution, where there's respect for one another, where everyone is treated equally, where we still have a free press, free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and I mean freedom across the board. Freedom of speech does not mean you can get up there and say fire in a building and there's not being fire. That's not freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is not getting up there and saying that somebody ought to be killed. Freedom of speech is listening to one another, engaging in civil conversation. And again, it's okay to have differing political views. It's okay. It's expected in a democracy. It's how we deal with it. That's what matters, how we deal with it. I don't want to see another bleeding Kansas. I don't want to see another civil war. I want to see an America where there's still compassion, empathy, And I know those are dirty words to some people. I don't give a rat's butt if you're a Republican or a Democrat, independent, whatever, if you're left or right, or who the heck you voted for. Let's all come to the table. Let's all be adults. Let's all talk about. Yes, let's discuss. Let's debate. But let's put all this name calling and shaming and blaming bullcrap outside. Thank you all for listening. And if you want to learn more about my thoughts, I have a blog called Steve's Random Thoughts on Substack. I'll put a link to my latest blog so that you can read my words. You're welcome to like, subscribe, share, and you're welcome to comment. If you disagree with me, that's fine with me. Okay. But for goodness sake, please be respectful. Not just to me, but to one another. Thank you all for being here and listening to me rant, rave, and give my thoughts. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. Peace out, y'all.
You have been listening to Steve's Random Thoughts, hosted, edited, and produced by Steve Williams. Thank you for listening. Please visit sublignavalley.us for the rest of our multimedia family. And again,